Sit back, relax, while I mansplain how to shut your pay gap. I think we do need to fix the gender pay gap, but I think it might be a good idea to change how we talk about it, because we seem to talk about only one reason, and that is for equality. And equality is great, but it doesn't really make sense to me, and it doesn't really make businesses any money. It's really difficult from that position to say to business leaders, here, you need to fix your entire system. There are a variety of ways you can fix the system if you want to go about it that way. One of those ways is to have structured interviews, and structured interviews work because of a thing called the halo effect. The halo effect is this effect where we all think, well, I'm pretty good at my job and I'm pretty intelligent and I'm pretty perceptive. So when we come across somebody that looks and sounds like us, we think, well, they're probably pretty good at the job too. And this works even if it's not the halo effect in hiring in our own likeness, as it's put, but sometimes even aspirational traits. If we've only ever seen a man do that job, then we're inclined to look at men and think, well, I just naturally see them as more capable. It is because of this halo effect that I think we need to change why we talk about it. And that is because diversity makes you money. If you don't have structured interviews, what you tend to do is just have an unstructured chat. And if the person is quite similar to you, what you will subconsciously be doing is trying to find areas upon which you can agree. The thing is, for business, you don't want somebody that agrees with you. What that ends up with is groupthink, where everybody in the organization thinks and agrees with exactly the same thing, and anybody that disagrees with them is seen as an outsider. That costs businesses loads of money, because if you're hiring a second person, but you're just going to agree all the time, why did you hire the second person? Just make a decision and do it yourself. Businesses thrive on healthy disagreement, on different perspectives. And that is also why it makes them more money, because in a free market economy, the more the inside of your organization looks like the market that you're selling to, the more effectively you will be selling to them, because your chocolate bars will be marketed to them and flavored in a way that that community is more likely to respond to, because the characters you put on screen are more likely to look like the audience that's watching them, and therefore they're more likely to tune in. It makes you money, and that's why we need to talk about it. And there are a variety of ways to fix it. Structured interviews aren't the only ones. Diversity training has been shown to work. Blinding the interview process so we don't know the age, race, gender of the person that we're interviewing as much as possible until the last moment. And those are great because those fix the system for the individual. Now I'm going to be a bit sexist, because it's great to have diversity without. I also want to talk about diversity within, and that is to look at an archetype of what is the masculine and what is the feminine, because there are, broadly speaking, there are differences. Now I have no idea if these differences are innate biological traits or broader social constructs that we've created. My suspicion is probably a mix somewhere in between. And my suggestion to you to shut your wage gap is be more masculine. Now, I understand that's quite offensive, and so what I want to make clear is this idea of diversity within is not about suddenly becoming more male in your entirety, but to recognize certain male behaviors and recognize the benefits that they might yield, and then deliberately choose when and how you're going to deploy those more masculine behaviors for your own benefit. Pay attention to how you inflect your voice. If you're in the habit of going up at the end of your sentences, like you're always asking questions, it's going to sound like you're not very sure of yourself, and it becomes a little bit exhausting for the listener to listen to because it seems like a really long list. You won't sound like somebody who I want to put in charge and give that promotion to. You also sound like somebody I can say no to if you're asking for a promotion like this. Vocal projection is also hugely important, and that is the ability to produce a voice and to produce a loud enough voice to command a room, to command people's attention. Because if you produce most of your voice up in your throat and chest, then the only way to raise the level of volume is to essentially start screaming at people. And this is how many women end up getting accused of being shrill. Now, I'm not saying speak deeper, though there are some benefits to that. I mean produce your voice from deeper within your belly, and that will give you greater vocal range, but also greater control so that you can speak really loudly if you need to. Sometimes, definitely, there are circumstances and situations where you want to calm down, where you want everybody else to listen, and sometimes even in the middle of a presentation, if you calm down, you'll get more focus and attention from the people around you. Again, it's about demonstrating this internal diversity so that you've got as many choices available to you and that you're making deliberate decisions in every moment. I run so many training rooms, and women are far more likely to put up their hand and sit and wait for the opportunity to speak. Now, there is something beautiful in that feminine quality of waiting, of letting others have their voice. Definitely there is. But if that's all of what you're doing, then you're missing out on the benefits of the masculine, of the standing, of the leaning in, of the interrupting and disagreeing, because that is, broadly speaking, one of the differences between how men and women talk is that men favor data. Men will disagree with one another, whereas women will favor consensus and finding places where people's minds can meet. Men are really good at just putting their hand up and just blah. I think I can run that. I can do that. You're wrong about this. And for people that do that, we won't notice many of the non-verbal communication that the feminine will exhibit. And the feminine habit will be I'm just taking a little audible but intentionally subtle intake of breath to let you know that I'm marking out my space and I would like to speak next. The problem is for the blah people, many of us don't even notice that. So if you need to speak up and be heard, it's great to be able to recognize those intakes of breath, and that is definitely something many men in the workplace can learn. I want you to be able to have the other skill at the other end of the spectrum, to disagree with somebody and not wait your turn. So if a meeting's going on about how something needs to progress, and you hold within your head a key bit of information that says, actually, this whole discussion that's happening right now is irrelevant because you don't know this thing, but you don't interrupt, and you don't disagree, and you wait till you get back to your desk to type everybody an email saying, I was just thinking about that thing we discussed. Everybody hates you, and it's costing that business money. So you need to develop the practice of interrupting, of speaking up and disagreeing. You need to do this for a variety of reasons. One, for the business, sure, but secondly, because it is that skill, that risk that you're taking that is quite often, I think it's actually related to the 2D to 4D ratio or internal testosterone. So testosterone has been shown to make us more likely to lean into risky situations, more likely to take risks. And I think that's what it is. Putting up your hand and disagreeing with somebody, it's terrifying the first time you do it. And so if you start tomorrow, even in those situations where you recognize somebody's made a setup for a joke and you've got the punchline and it's not too unnecessarily offensive, jump in, start doing it, because the first few times it's terrifying, but those cortisol levels will normalize over time, and eventually you will have developed for yourself a practice that you can deploy whenever you want to put your hand up and ask for what you want, ask for that pay rise, and say with that downward inflection, with that vocal projection that comes from your belly, I think I should be the person to head up this project. The next is certainty speak, and that is saying phrases like, I will, this can, this shows, talking in those terms, favoring that data and delivering it with the certainty that is needed is one of the leadership skills that so often people are looking for in organizations. If somebody's looking for somebody to head up a new project, but it's going to be tricky, it's going to be tough, there are going to be tight time scales and tricky suppliers that I need somebody to deal with, then somebody saying, absolutely, I can handle that, and using those inflections, that vocal projection, that leaning into that space, you're going to look like the person who deserves that promotion. Certainty speak is the opposite of what I would describe as the feminine habit of minimizing oneself, and that is saying, oh, this is probably stupid, and I haven't thought about this much yet, and this isn't quite ready, and I don't know if anybody's already said this, and these kind of things that say, please disregard my opinion before I've even shared it. They're exhausting for everybody else. And if I'm looking for somebody to lead a project, what I want is somebody who sounds like they know what they're talking about, who's going to be able to talk to other employees of mine and say, here is the path forward. Now, I understand why people do this. In many ways, it's beautiful. It is giving other people a space. It's saying, look, maybe you have discussed this and I don't want my input to seem like it's trouncing your input. There is definite value to doing this. And if you never do it, as I don't do it so much, then own your wins. Be able to speak positively about your skills and abilities. One of the best ways to start doing this is from today, accept compliments. When somebody says, particularly if they're based on something you did rather than something you're wearing. If somebody says, I think you did that really well, don't go, oh, I felt so nervous, or I didn't think it was very good, or I screwed this bit up. Even if it's cooking the dinner or painting a picture, accept those compliments. You need to be comfortable hearing positive things about yourself. And then secondly, you need to be able to say them. If you did a project and ran a project last year, don't just sit around waiting for other people to notice that, because what there will be in your workplace, if it's like many other workplaces that I go and work within, is there's going to be a man somewhere going, I did this and this was amazing and this is fantastic. And when it comes time at the end of the year to go, who needs a pay rise because everybody's asking for one, it's going to be that person that looks like they deserve it. So be able to talk and tell stories about how you overcame adversity and how there was this huge interpersonal challenge. And then I realized that if I treated people like adults and I was firm with them, that they could sort out their own differences. And that was a real growth point for me. With that downward inflection, with that certainty, you seem now like a project leader. Because if you don't, you're going to be one of those people that sits there waiting for opportunities and gets, they didn't ask me yet, or that was my turn for that promotion. I've been here for ages. Speak about what you're going to do, what benefits you offer, what skills you've got, and why somebody should give you a promotion rather than sitting around and waiting for them. Please, we need more women in positions of power. We need more women in Parliament because better decisions get made. It's better for everybody when that happens. I need it, I want it, but I'm not able to do it myself because I have a penis. Now, whether you're a man or a woman or anything in between, if you already demonstrate most of those qualities most of the time of speaking with downward inflection, using your vocal projection, of speaking with certainty, of interrupting and disagreeing and favoring data and using that certainty speak and owning your wins, then perhaps what you need to focus on is more of the feminine skill. Now, being a guy, I don't fully know what the feminine skills are, but I think they are often around finding consensus, finding where two divergent opinions can actually come together. And yes, it needs to be cheaper, and yes, it needs to be done on schedule. Can we find somewhere where we can do it cheaply and on schedule? And finding those ways of letting people speak so that if you notice somebody to have that intake of breath, oh, look like you wanted to say something next. These are really important skills, and if you don't have them, you need to learn them. And definitely within the business sphere, we need more of that. And that is how we get there. Part of fixing the system comes from finding this internal diversity, finding this stretch and these ways that you can make these choices yourself. Yeah, this is very genderized. I'm talking in gender essential terms, and I understand that is going to be upsetting to some people. I do truly believe these things that I'm saying, and if I'm wrong about them, please disagree with me. Show me where I'm wrong on them. I say these because I think individuals will benefit from hearing them, that you will get more of what you want from life, from being able to be more diverse. And this is not just about masculine behaviors and feminine behaviors as poorly defined as they are, but everything from how many languages you speak and instruments you play and different vehicles you can operate. The more skills that you have, the more choices that you have in any given circumstance. And that's what I really want for you, to be able to get more of what you want from your life. So shut your pay gap.